Hey, you guys, this is Valerie Z.
And this is Ilka D. And this is the You Unscripted podcast,
where we empower you to speak your truth by tapping in to your authenticity. Hey, everybody. Thank you for coming back and tuning in to the You Unscripted podcast. I am Valerie Z.
And I am Ilka D. And we are here for our second episode, which I think, given the fact that, of course, in the last one, I think everybody tolerated our introductions and, kind of the genesis of where it is that we're coming from, why we're doing this. But now I think we can just dig in, Val. What do you think?
Hell yeah. Yeah. So what we want to talk about is, I want to ask you a question.
Oh, wow. Here we go. You see how this starts? Okay. Yes. Go right ahead.
Yeah,
I am open to the universe. You know what? Would you guys mind? I wouldn't mind. So for those who mind, just give us a couple of seconds. For those who don't mind, I would like to start this episode with a prayer. Val, would you do us the honor?
Ooh, I love that. Yes, absolutely. That's a beautiful idea. Dear God, we say thank you for another day. Thank you for our lives. Thank you for the moments that challenge us because they lead us to your grace. Thank you for your love because it gives us strength to move forward. Thank you for giving us faith because it gives us vision for what your divine will has to offer us. And may you bless this space, bless Ilka, and bless me, and anybody out there listening, looking to heal. Amen.
Amen. Yes. Awesome. So the reason why I asked for that, and, we'll do it sometimes, we don't do it sometimes, but I really think that we want to get better at leading with an open mind and an open heart. And I think sometimes, to say a prayer, at least in my mind, and irregardless of what God you pray to, I believe that we have to stop for a second to kind of clear our mind out when we know that we're going to say a prayer, right? Hey, we're going to say a prayer. Okay. Oh, you hear people breathe, you see people close their eyes. All of that is intended to kind of close out and move out the noise. And I think that's a really good entree to this week's subject matter. Val, what are we gonna dig into today, ladies and gentlemen?
Well, I think, and I'm curious to know, because we know that we have our own unique stories. I want to know, how is it that you started to realize that you needed to embark on a healing journey? How'd that start for you?
Wow, that's such a big question, you guys. Because now the reason why it's a big question is because my friend Val over here is the one that first told me healing is not linear. And while my logical mind understands that concept, of course, healing is not linear. And I can tell you the 100,000 reasons why it's not and why it shouldn't be, right? The problem is, though, is that I also think that while healing is not linear, I also think that healing is fragmented in most. We have these periods of healing and we don't recognize them. And let me give you an example. When I was in elementary school, I went to an elementary school in the San Gabriel Valley. It was a Catholic school, and I was ridiculously picked on. I'm serious as shit when I tell you that I was picked on to the level of the entire 6th grade being told not to speak to me. Not one word. They couldn't speak one word to me because, the girl who was the most popular and everybody somehow had just subbed to her some way. She had control of the whole class, told the whole class not to speak to me, and they did not. And when you are going to school day in and day out, and literally no one is allowed to talk to you, So you're being ignored at a very very public, very ignominy, just all encompassing embarrassment. You don't realize it, but you have to heal from that. I was 12 years old. I didn't realize at that point that I needed to heal from that. But what happened in that year was that I did heal. That lack of social interaction, right? That loneliness, all of that, it forced me to find other ways to consume my energy, my thoughts. And I started making friends with other kids. And I started making friends with older kids. And next thing I know, these older kids are telling me, fuck that chick, that fucking bitch, this and what? Nobody likes her. What? Are you kidding me? The whole class, like all of a sudden I've got this outside perspective of people that are telling me, whatever world you think you're in, you're not. Just decide. So that was the first time that I healed from something tremendous, just massive. And I didn't really realize it. Because what happened, how I realized it, or how I realized that something had changed, was eventually when we started 7th grade, I had friends from all sorts of different grades. And when I came to school for the first day of school, next thing you know, I'm literally not talking to anybody in my grade. I'm talking to everybody in all the other grades. The 8th graders are saying, Elka, what's up? Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I'm not hurt by their lack of interaction with me. I'm not even paying attention to them. They forced me to stop thinking about them. They forced me to have to choose something else in my life. Interestingly enough, I felt joy that I wasn't hanging on to something that, quite frankly, was never mine to hang on to. I really didn't have that friendship. If that's what that friendship did to me, right? It wasn't really a friendship. But as my life has progressed from there and in other instances of having to recover, right? We've all had to recover from things throughout our lives. We don't realize that we're healing. We're looking at it as recovery, and recovery is healing. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put that together. Recovery is healing. Recovery of a broken leg. Now you have a healed leg. Recovery of a broken arm. Now you have a healed arm, right? But one of the things that's interesting about healing, I think, is that the scars never erase. So when you have prior wounds, what we call triggers in the world, you hear everybody talking about triggers and triggers and triggers. Triggers are really great ways of reopening that bad boy. And now you've got a nice, fresh, new wound in the same place that you had an old one. So that's a big question, Val, because I think the short answer is, figuratively speaking, everybody, please don't take this like literal, but figuratively speaking, what made me finally choose to be active in my healing was the fact that I was bleeding everywhere. For years and years and years, I had gaping wounds in my soul, in my heart, in my mind, in my dignity that grew to such an overwhelming level of pain that I finally said to myself, I don't want to continue to feel this way for one more second. The overwhelming eclipse of light in my life, which I had managed somehow to avoid. I had managed to recover. I had managed to heal little bits. I had managed to move forward. I had managed to keep functioning. I had managed to keep living my life. But I'm dragging like the ghost in the Scrooge story. You know, when the ghost comes back and he's got all the chains and shit and he's like, oh, fucking, Scrooge, you better get your shit together because your life is going to be shit if you don't change. Yep. But that didn't happen to me in a dream. That happened to me wide awake. And that's what I literally wanted to explode. And that's when you happened to come into my life, was I need to stop this searing pain in my heart. How the fuck do I even start what the fuck does that even mean? Because now that you're an adult, you've complicated your life way beyond it needs to be. You're just complicating your own shit, right? When we're little, we know how to heal. When we're little, we know how to fix ourselves. Somehow, as we get older, we just complicate the shit. And then people outside of us complicate it. And you get to a point where you literally feel like you don't know how to do anything. You don't know how to breathe. You don't know how to live. You don't know how to have your heart beat the next beat. You are dying a slow, painful, horrible, excruciating emotional death. But then it comes to that moment where it's like, and I preface what I'm about to say with the fact that if anybody listening needs the suicide prevention hotline ever, if you are listening to this show and you are thinking of or feeling like you or even thinking of ending your life, I want you guys to call the suicide prevention hotline because, not everybody can be there at the right time, but most of us can get to a phone. So call 988 is a suicide crisis lifeline, or you can go to 988lifeline.org. Worldwide, you can go to Befrienders, BEFRIENDERS.org. Worldwide, in the US, you can call 988 or text 988. Again, that suicide crisis lifeline. You can find it at 988lifeline, LIFELINE.org. When you feel like you're ready to literally blow your head off, when you're done living, you're done dealing, that's a very dark and very scary place to be. And I was in that place for probably a period of about 2 years, still living, still smiling, still showing up. But inside, I'm just disintegrating. That finally rationalizing that is where I was, having a very conscious thought process about that being where I was and not wanting to get out of that thought process. That's when I knew that I needed a change and it needed to happen now.
We will include the suicide prevention hotline and website information in the show notes. And I just want to tell you that I'm so sorry that you went through that. And I'm so happy that you're still here and that you chose life and that you chose to fight.
Me too. And you know what the sad part is about the majority of those feelings? In fact, all of those feelings, all of those thought processes were that I wanted that person, I wanted my spouse to feel the pain of me no longer being here. And that was wrong. Like that was never going to happen. Never going to happen. That person was never going to feel anything, nothing. If you're thinking that, please understand that the pain that you think that these people will feel, they will not. If somebody is literally telling you, go ahead, take your life, go ahead. What are you waiting for? Go ahead. That person is not going to feel your death. That person does not love you. And that's hard, but I have now learned that the only person in the world that has to love you is you.
That's insane, right? Your entire existence is being questioned or being jeopardized solely so that the one other person can feel your absence and
Horrible.
feel the grief of your absence. But there's so many other people that love you, that need you. That is so powerful.
And you lose sight of that. You lose complete sight of that because you're in such darkness. You're literally sinking down a hole, and you know that you're sinking down this hole. You are conscious. It's not like people who are going through this are not conscious, ladies and gentlemen. They hear you, but they're literally out of reach because they can't accept anything positive. You create this shell around yourself. And as a result of that shell, you literally can't absorb anything good. You just can't. You're out of reach. And that's the dangerous zone.
It's very dangerous to be around people who do not care about your well-being, about anybody else's feelings but their own, about anybody else's reality but their own. It's a very dangerous life to live because you start being programmed by their worldview. Their worldview is that you don't matter. Your feelings don't matter. Your reality does not matter. That's so dangerous. And I can relate to that because I grew up in an environment like that. I think I mentioned this on the last episode, which was I grew up not realizing that I was worthy of respect. I grew up thinking that I deserved, and this was the programming because of my surroundings. I grew up feeling like everything bad that happened to me, I deserved it. Any abuse, any time I was mistreated, I felt like I had it coming. The abuse was affirming to me. I didn't know that I was worthy of being valued and being respected and that my voice mattered. I didn't realize that until I was in my 30s, going to therapy, trying, dying to love myself. For me, I started realizing that I needed healing when my alcoholic lifestyle, my blacking out lifestyle started catching up to me. And I realized that I was the common denominator to my suffering, and I was the only one who can change it.
Are we talking about blacked out, like out for the count, like you don't have any knowledge, your brain just shut off, blacked out?
Yeah. So blacking out is not blacking out as like you're passed out. It's you are still functioning. You are still walking and talking, but your brain stops processing memory. So
Wow.
I'm still out there stumbling, slurring, talking to people. I may look visibly drunk, but I'm still awake. That lifestyle for a woman or for anybody, but women get taken advantage of.
Absolutely.
And we don't remember anything. We have to put the pieces of the puzzle back together the next day. We have to, look at our bank statement or log on to our bank statement to see how much money did I spend? Where's my cell phone? Look through our call log, look through our text log to see who we were texting. Who did we call? Call our friends to ask them what happened. How did I get home? It's a very sad life. And at the time, the urge to drink was disguised as, I just want to go out and have fun. I want to take the edge off. But really, what's underneath that disguise is pain and suffering and depression and unresolved grief, pain that's been unattended to. The way for you to know if there's some healing to be done is pay attention to the ways in which you want to escape your life. Pay attention to how you try to distract yourself from what's within, from uncomfortable emotions. And that will tell you that there's something within you, whether it be memories, whether it be emotions, that need to be attended to. And what happens a lot of the time is that the stuff that's happening on the surface, for me, it was the dangers of living an alcoholic lifestyle. For you, it was being in an abusive relationship. Those things that are happening on the surface are calling us to go inward because there is a reason why you got into that relationship and stayed for as long as you did. There is a reason why I'm choosing to drink so much and disconnect from myself. And those reasons are the root causes. That is what life is inviting you to look at, because underneath that truth within us, there is so many answers. And underneath that truth, as painful as it is to confront, there's so much joy and happiness when we tend to that, because that's the root cause.
Yeah. It's, I want to put this question out to the listeners. Do you know when you are in pain? The reason for that question is because, as strange as it may sound, I knew when I was in pain, but I was really good at neutralizing it. So, of course, we all know when we're in physical pain, right? That's not a question. You are going to burn yourself, you cut yourself, paper cuts feel like the devil himself has landed, right? We all know when there's pain. We all know when there's physical pain. But when you are in emotional pain, I think that's a very interesting place to be, because sometimes you feel physical pain. Sometimes you feel that clench in your chest, right? You're short of breath. The body starts to react in what most people now can recognize as anxiety or anxious behavior. All of our lives we've known, you've got tension in your neck. Oh, you must be stressed out about something. Okay, well, that tension never goes away. And you're dealing and you're dealing and you're dealing and you're pushing through and you're pushing through and you're pushing through. And that's great that you can push through. But the problem with most of us is that, imagine that as just a layer. It's just a thin layer of life. And we push through, so we set it aside. And then we push through the next thing and we set it aside. And we push through the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And next thing you know, these micro thin sheets of life are now taller than you. How many things have you pushed to the side and not really dealt with them in its entirety? We're so used to living in a society where we are forced by the expectations external to us to move at a certain pace, think at a certain speed, act with intention at a certain rate, right? But none of that ever accounts for the time necessary to breathe, right? It never accounts for the time necessary to process what the fuck is happening in my life right now. Good, bad, or indifferent. Because let me tell you something, good things that we wish for, good things that we pray for, often come with an unbelievable amount of stress. I'll give you an example. Business. Everybody who's an entrepreneur wants to be in business. They want to be busy. They want to sell a lot. They want to make money. And I just want you to know that when that really does start happening, because that has happened to me multiple times, but when that really does start happening, you swear that you're shedding a skin. There aren't enough hours in the day. There isn't enough time. There's never enough money. Growing feels like you're literally stretching your bones. And you're just dedicated to not giving up. And you get by. You make it to the next level. But if you don't do the very difficult job of cleaning house, if you don't do the housekeeping as you grow and grow and grow, there's going to be a point where you're going to have to go all the way back. And in business, we all know that usually happens in accounting exercises, right? Or insurance situations where you have to go literally all the way back to find the genesis of an issue, right? Where something occurred. And that is like finding a needle in a haystack. Well, we're willing to do that for our businesses. We're willing to put in the overnights. We're willing to put in the long hours for your profession. But we are not willing to do the same amount of work for our personal, soulful regeneration. And having to go all the way back when you're talking about your life is probably one of the most painful exercises I've ever had to do. Because to unravel this bullshit that is my life, I have to do that to find where the knot actually is in order to undo that knot. And I've probably got millions of knots in the trajectory of my life that are hidden under layers and layers and layers and layers of self-doubt and bullshit and emotional abuse and physical abuse and you name it, it's in there. So it's easier to just run the other direction, right? Than to do the work.
And most people do that.
Absolutely. Until, for whatever reason in your particular life, the shit starts to rumble. And one day, in your very calm, very controlled, very in control life, you don't know what the fuck is happening underneath you. You're rumbling. Your heart's rumbling. Your soul's rumbling. Wait, but what's happening? Why do I feel this way? Why am I so full of anxiety? Everything's great. Everything's great. Nope, more rumble, more rumble, more rumble until you explode. And you cannot stop it. You cannot control it. Your world literally falls apart in seconds because it's finally become much bigger than you. And now you're left there in this state of disbelief, like you have no idea who the fuck came out of nowhere and body snatched your existence. The only person that is responsible for that is you. And it's a big moment where you have to take full accountability of what remains to be addressed in your psyche in order to truly begin to heal. You know, that's a big question. How do you know? How did you know you needed to start healing? I think starts with identifying that you even have healing to do or that there's something that you have to heal, but you don't know what it is. I think that's the biggest element. That's the most difficult part of healing is identifying that you even need to heal. I'm sure we all know people that are like, I'm not going to a therapist. I don't need a therapist. Wow. Good for you, man. That's what's up. But that's not true most of the times. What that is the ego trying to say, I got this. I don't need someone to tell me how to live my life. I don't need a stranger to tell me how to. Well, newsflash. Valerie has never told me how to live my life. Just FYI. She's never told me how to make a decision, what decision to make. Nope, not once. Because that's not the role. Therapist doesn't tell you how to live your life. A therapist doesn't tell you what to do. A therapist doesn't do that. They literally partner with you to walk with you through your pain and to help you understand and to make heads or tails of the genesis of where some of that may have originated and to give you the tools to help yourself out of that dark space, should you want to walk out of that dark space, because they also cannot do it for you. So identifying that you are hurting yourself, identifying that you are hurting others. Val, have you in your trajectory, as an example for everybody, let's break the shit down really quick because, you know, there's podcast after podcast after podcast after podcast that's going to talk about how you are responsible for you, how you can fix yourself, how you can be the answer to everything that's going on in your life. Okay, well, to all of those people who don't bother to break it down, I'm going to break it the fuck down. So,
break it down.
Valerie, question number 1. In your journey prior to healing, have you hurt someone?
Absolutely.
Would you say on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being you're a complete asshole, would you say that you've erred on the side of 10 more than once?
It depends on what your definition is of complete asshole. But yes, more than once, yes.
Just fallen on your face, you're not treating people with respect, you're lashing out, you're projecting, right? That's what happens to the people around us. That's what happens to people who love you, who are not the reason, in most cases, for your pain. But you'll notice real quick that you have something to heal if the person that you love is crying because of you. That is one of your biggest indicators. And I mean your children, your parents, your siblings, your friends, your husband, your wife, your spouse, your girlfriend, whatever the case. If that person who wakes up next to you every day is crying because of your behavior, you have something to fix.
Absolutely. Yes. And that used to be me.
I mean, there isn't a person on the planet, quite frankly, that hasn't hurt somebody else, knowingly or unknowingly. It's mostly unknowingly Because when you're hurt, when that trigger goes off in your life, right? When that trigger goes off, it's literally like you turn into the Hulk. In whatever way you Hulk out. But when you Hulk out, oh shit, there's just no stopping you. And mind you, we all know that the Hulk knows that he's hulked out. The very interesting thing about the way that they wrote that is, do we all realize that when the Hulk turns back into David Banner, that most times he doesn't remember what happened? That too is very real. People who have been abused, people who have had to survive at a level that brings into question their literal survival, their mentality changes, their physicality changes as a result of the abuse. Your brain structure changes when you are a survivor. And if you don't start to work on getting yourself out of that fight or flight mode, because not everybody is trying to kill you, not everyone is trying to hurt you, not everyone is trying to come after you, that's when you realize that you're hurting everything around you, and that even the good people around you are also taking some of the brunt of your inability to do your own housekeeping.
Very powerful. And you're absolutely right. I mean, just imagine a wounded animal in the jungle, right? And they're bleeding. And they think that anything that comes near them, whether it be a lion, a coyote, a squirrel, like they are fighting for their life because that wound needs to be protected. They are vulnerable. And so that's what people do when they're in survival mode and they have these unresolved wounds from the past, is that they're going through life sort of paranoid, thinking that everyone around them is trying to get one over on them. It's a very scary place. Life becomes a very scary place because you don't trust anybody.
Not even the people you love.
And there's this hypervigilance. And no matter how much healing you do, you may still be hypervigilant, but at least the paranoia is under control. At least the anxiety is under control. All of that is possible. You can reprogram or create, we'll say create new neural pathways in your brain so that your brain doesn't default to that paranoia or to that rage.
That's it. I think you say something very instrumental when you say that we can develop new neural pathways, because I think that's ultimately what gets destroyed when we are in the suffering stages, is we lose our way out of the damaged mind. We lose our way out of the bad emotion. So what are some coping mechanisms that you could recommend, Val, for people who are starting to realize, hey, maybe I did go too far in that argument last night. Maybe I did go too far in dealing with that customer. Gosh, why do I feel this way? Why do I explode? Why do I react this way with people? I don't want to do that. I don't want to feel this way. And I don't want them to look at me that way. Gosh, the look on their faces just made me feel horrible, right? What can you recommend to people that are starting to feel that, or starting to recognize that, hey, there's something not right? What could we tell them?
That's a really good question. So first, I would say give yourself grace, forgive yourself. You are a human being who was programmed a certain way based on your life experience. 2 would be to ask yourself, get curious about, where does this come from? Why am I holding on to Or where is all of this rage and frustration coming from? It's coming from somewhere. It really doesn't have anything to do with the customer or with the external source that's triggering that. That is already within you. And what this customer or what this external source did was just expose it, was just trigger it, sort of like pushing a button. But that button, when it's pushed, can be handled differently. It just depends on how deep you're willing to go within yourself. So start asking yourself questions as to where this is coming from, because that is going to help you get to the roots of that trigger. And that's what you ultimately want to do, is that you ultimately want to react differently when life throws you a curveball. You ultimately want to get to the point where you remain respectful and you're also mindful of other people's feelings, but you also respect yourself so much that you would not disrespect another person because you wouldn't even disrespect yourself. So there's this level of compassion, empathy, and respect that you have for others. But first, it starts with you. And the only way for you to have that compassion, that empathy, and respect for yourself is start understanding your story. Go deep. The reason why I am a good coach and a good hypnotherapist is because I've met myself at the very depths of my pain, at the very depths of my core wounds. So I'm better able to understand myself. Therefore, I'm really good at understanding people. So number 3 would be accountability. Be able to take responsibility for the fact that your behavior is not okay. And it doesn't mean that you're a horrible, terrible person. What it means is that you have some healing to do and you're willing to go deep within yourself to heal those wounds that trigger so much rage or anger. And so once you have that empathy, that understanding, and that respect for yourself, then that's how you build confidence. And once you have that type of confidence, you have no problem taking accountability for your behavior. It doesn't throw you into a shame spiral when you address your behavior with whoever it was that you hurt. You know, after I got sober and I did a lot of healing work on myself, I went back to my exes and made amends with them for the ways I had hurt them.
That's big. That's big. Most people will be like, fuck her.
Well, yeah, there's certain exes that I don't need to apologize to, but right? I'm talking about the exes before I was healed. The women that I know that like really loved me, it didn't work out because we were emotionally immature on both sides. But I took my side of the street and I walked over to their side of the street and I said, hey,
sorry.
I just want to tell you that, like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the pain that I caused you. I recognize what my behavior was back then.
That's huge.
Yeah, I recognize why I did that now. At the time, I was very rageful and I was very disrespectful and I was very self-centered. But the beautiful thing about this work, about meeting yourself very deeply, is that you have the self-esteem and the confidence and now the humanity and compassion for other people to say, hey, I'm sorry. That's a very beautiful place to be. And that's where you want to be. That's like the sweet spot of life, is that you can go through life recognizing that you're human, recognizing that you're going to make mistakes, but being able to own up to it.
It's the one part, I think, of this big question, right? How do you heal? You know, we can't possibly cover that answer in one episode, but I think this first episode, this first part, has at least provided you guys some awareness that there's nothing wrong with you if you have not gone out and bought a self-help book or gone to this therapist or gone and done this and done that yet. because you may very well be in a position where maybe for the last 10 minutes, maybe for the last 10 years, maybe for the last 3 decades, you've realized that something as simple as, God, I wish this would stop happening to me. Whatever that is that is on fucking perpetual repeat in your life, that is a sign, ladies and gentlemen, that there is some work to be done. And the purpose of this podcast, You Unscripted, is because we want you guys to feel, just like we feel, that society has enough expectations of you. Your family, your boss, everybody has enough expectations of you. You have enough expectations of you. And this is a space, this is a platform where we get to talk about it without those social confines. We get to talk about it without being afraid what someone's going to think. We get to talk about it because we don't talk about it enough. You know, if anything, people have over the last couple of years just beaten everyone over the head. Mental health, mental health, mental health, mental health. Yes, mental health is important. Yes, now there is popular acceptance of it. Yes, people should learn to love themselves because that's certainly not something that we were ever taught in school or that most of us were taught at home. You know, again, our lives are oriented towards the external. Our lives are decided. What we're taught at home decides on what it, or is decided rather on what it is that we're supposed to go do external to our home. But we don't spend enough time talking about the self. And that's what this show is about. It's about you unscripted, you outside of your professional gear, outside of your dad gear, of your mom gear, of your daughter gear. You know, this is about you. This is the raw and literal you, your thoughts, your feelings, and we're sharing ours so that we can try to help you guys identify yours. Valerie and I couldn't be more different, but we also couldn't be more similar. And I think that's the beauty of what we're talking about is pain and suffering and trauma and triggers and hurt does not give a shit what color you are or how much money you make, what fucking car you're driving or whether or not you have the latest Dior or Balenciaga or pain doesn't care about that shit at all. Suffering doesn't care about that. Heartbreak could give a fuck how much money you have in your bank account. And we're trying to share with you guys what we've been through because we both feel that we have survived, literally survived life to a certain extent. And we're smarter for the wear. And we're trying to share this with you guys so that you don't have to feel afraid, so that you don't have to feel self-conscious, so that you don't have to feel nervous. Oh man, what if I need help? What if there's something I need to fix? Hey, you know what? There should be something you need to fix because there isn't a single person on the planet that doesn't have something they need to fix. First of all, let's accept and narrow the playing field here. No one is better than anyone else in this emotional roller coaster of life. There are some people who have learned how to deal with this bullshit, and it's amazing what they can do.
Well, they exploit other people's vulnerabilities, which that's not how we want to live our lives. We want to be better human beings for ourselves and for those around us.
Absolutely. Look, we were never taught at an early enough age that the only person who you absolutely must worry about is yourself. And because of that, we've spent so much time and energy on so many other people around us that the person who lacks the most attention is yourself. And on this show, we're going to continue to press these weird and uncomfortable topics in a way that breaks it down. Because I know a lot of you guys listening probably feel the same way I did and do still sometimes. But I'm in control now, thanks to Valerie, thanks to, my therapist, Daniel, thanks to my other therapist, Nancy, and thanks to myself more than anybody. Thanks to myself for wanting to stop the fucking insanity. I literally wanted off this fucking ride. And I cannot tell you how happy I am that I did not give in because damn it, if I would have given in, so many other negative things in my life would have won. And they don't deserve that. Those things don't deserve that. Those people don't deserve for me to disappear off this planet. On the contrary, it's one of the things that I'm very proud of right now is that I am still standing. I'm still standing.
I love that.
Like that Elton John song. I'm still standing, right? We all know that song. And like, I can't listen to that song and not cry because like, it's real. Those lyrics really hit, better than I ever did. Looking like a soul survivor, feeling like a little kid. I'm still standing, right? So we'll leave you guys on this episode. Once again, let me remind you guys of suicide hotlines. Please use them. 988. You can text it. You can call it from your phone. Those people are there for you. They literally are there to listen to you because sometimes all we need is someone to listen, you guys. And soon enough, we'll be able to have you guys call into the show and share your stories. And we want you to rage and we want you to scream and we want you to laugh and we want you to share. Get it off your chest. That's what this show is about. It's you unscripted. This is where you get to come, let it fall apart. And we're here to help you understand how to put it back together because we're regular people. So just like you, we made it through and I'm excited to be here every week to help you guys do it.
And I want to leave you with this. Healing, going deep within yourself to find answers, to find joy, to find happiness, finally getting tired of the way you're living your life. It's not easy, okay? Anybody who tells you it's easy, it's not. It's the hardest thing you will ever do, but it's also so worth it. It is the most amazing and beautiful gift you will ever give yourself. You will find the essence of your soul's energy underneath all of that pain. I want you to know that you do not get stuck there. I know that healing and revisiting your traumas or those most painful memories from the past can seem scary, but I'm telling you that when you take that walk through those dark woods, you will find light. You will find peace. You will find joy. You will have compassion for yourself. You can dismantle self-hate. I used to walk through life hating myself, and I didn't know it. But the way I was living my life was proof of that disdain that I had for my inner child. And I'm telling you that when you start walking towards all of that pain, you will come out on the other side so grateful. You will have respect for yourself. That's how you build self-esteem. And that's how you do life. You want to do life from a very enlightened perspective. And being enlightened is not going to another country and backpacking across the world. Like, you get enlightened by visiting those parts of you that you do not want to deal with. It's those parts of you that hold the answers, because underneath that is love. This is Valerie Z.
And this is Ilka D. And this is you.
Unscripted.